of Ambazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Amber's Bay, the iconic Faco Mountain ascends with a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky. This towering sentinel is more than a geographical marvel. It is the heart of southern Cameroons, the stoic guardian of Ambazonia, a symbol steadfast as the unyielding spirit manifests in the unity of the land's 13th counties. Encircling this earthen spire, a dove of peace edges its arc, untouched and serene. As it soars with wings unfurled, it casts shadows upon the land, each feather a brushstroke of tranquility. Against the canvas of the heavens, 13 stars glimmer, the celestial acknowledgement of each county's shared dreams and harmonious virtues. The dove, in its eternal flight, is not merely a bird, but an embodiment of the collective longing for a peaceful existence under a shared identity. Beneath the mountain top, firmly grounded in the richness of the earth, twin elephant tusks rise as natural monuments. Their arcs, regal and commanding, capture the noble essence of the land spirit animals. This emblem, this seal of Ambazonia, is no mere insignia. It is the beacon that illuminates the path to shared prosperity. It is an oasis of unity in a world parched by discord, a visual whisper of a nation's promise, echoing across generations. Every curve, every symbol within the emblem tells the story of southern Cameroons, an epic scripted by the enduring strength and unity of its communities. Each page imbued with the hopes and enduring spirit of its people. Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Ambazonia. Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Ambazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Amber's Bay, the iconic Faco Mountain ascends with a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky. This towering sentinel is more than a geographical marvel. It is the heart of southern Cameroons, the stoic guardian of Ambazonia, a symbol steadfast as the unyielding spirit manifests in the unity of the land's 13th counties. Encircling this earthen spire, a dove of peace edges its act, untouched and serene. As it soars with wings unfurled, it casts shadows upon the land, each feather a brushstroke of tranquility. Against the canvas of the heavens, 13 stars glimmer, the celestial acknowledgement of each county's shared dreams and harmonious virtues. The dove, in its eternal flight, is not merely a bird, but an embodiment of the collective longing for a peaceful existence under a shared identity. Beneath the mountain top, firmly grounded in the richness of the earth, twin elephant tusks rise as natural monuments. Their arcs, regal and commanding, capture the noble essence of the land spirit animals. This emblem, this seal of Ambazonia, is no mere insignia. It is the beacon that illuminates the path to shared prosperity.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very for that uh, introduction over there. Sorry, I got frozen here, barrister. When I was just about to go on the air, I got frozen. So I had to quickly get back to the technical. So, greetings to everyone that is here with us today. This is Thursday, the 18th of January 2024, and we are here in the studios, of course, with Barrister Timothy Meseha. And a lot of people will ask why Barrister. Is because Barrister is available, and he has sacrificed, not because he's idle, he has sacrificed to educate the Ambazonian people as to what is going on, so that the generations that are coming after the barrister will not go into strenuous research that will give them falsehood, because barrister is not talking out of research. He's talking, yeah, research, but out of experience and experimental. He has experienced and experimented what we are talking about, meaning that he was either an ear witness or an eyewitness in most of the things that concerns the history of Ambazonia, which at that time was current events that were unfolding in Ambazonia. And as we have told you in our Amba history, we want to bring you events that have turned into history. Current events that have turned into history. And we also want to bring you the layout and the background, the foundation, the ground floor of where we are coming from and where we are so far. And so we get men and women like Barrister who are very, very willing to be with us at any moment we have that stroke of a call. And please, if you are available to come in here and share with us on our Amber history, we will be very, very glad to have you come in here and share what you know and have on Amber history. Not only that, on the screen, you can see our contact number for Amber history. If you have anything to contribute or to suggest or to say, please call in as we go ahead to share this very important concept. Today, we will be talking about the Green Tree Accord that is almost being forgotten and that was mistakenly signed by a wrong person. I want to know who would have been the right person to have signed the Green Tree Accord. And so, without any further waste of time, I will cross over to the barrister, and the barrister will just go ahead, give us a little bit of introduction, and then straight ahead go into talking about this green tree of arrangement. Barrister, the microphone is yours. Thank you. Please share the
Uh,
link. Share the link.
Thank you, Pastor Commando, for having me once more. Again, we're here to do some legal education and historical corrections. That's why I come here. And like in previous occasions, I've always asked those who have anything contrary document or opinion, in fact, facts, not even opinion, to do challenge us for the purpose of being better educated. And so today we have agreed to focus on something we are very familiar with in the name, but not in the content. We're familiar with something they call the Green Tree Agreement, which has generated some debates, come to some different conclusions, which should be corrected. So, once more, thank you for having me. If you let me continue from there, I will let us know that the so called Green Tree Agreement, which was signed in 2006, didn't fall from heaven. It came from a case, a case that was filed by the Republic of Cameroon against Nigeria at the International Court of Justice at The Hague. The case was filed in 1994 and ended in 2002. And the Green Tree Agreement came in 2006. And so that's the background. It is wrong to say that the Green Tree Agreement was signed by the wrong parties. No. It was signed by Nigeria, was signed by the Republic of Cameroon, was negotiated and signed by Kofi Annan, who was the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time. They were the correct parties. Why? The parties to the case at The Hague were plaintiff, the Republic of Cameroon, defendant, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and a third party joined. I will come to that. A third party joined. The third party was called the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, but the two main parties were these. These were the two parties. And the International Court of Justice falls under the United Nations. And so whatever thing was being done, witnessed by the Secretary General of the United Nations, they were the right parties on the table. The important thing for us as Ambazonians to know, and for historians at large, and lawyers in particular, is to know the content of the agreement. For Ambazonians, did that agreement affect us? Have we any stake in the Green Tree Agreement? Indirectly we have, but directly we don't. Directly because we were not party to the case at The Hague. Indirectly because it dealt with Bakassi, that we have insisted Bakassi is Ambazonia. If you go to Boya, for example, and you are driving from Boya to Muya, there's about a small drinking place, I think it still exists, owned by retired Justice Paul Aya. It is named Bakassi na Cameroon. It doesn't even say Bakassi na Nigeria, na Ambazonia. It says Bakassi na Cameroon. It was established in the late 1990s. And so that it is. That's what it is. So again, if you don't have any further questions, I will go further to explain what the Green Tree Agreement was. But for you to understand what the Green Tree Agreement was, we must understand the basis of the case at The Hague that gave rise to the Green Tree Agreement. As a background,
Okay. I thought I had a question, something to say. I was saying that if we will sit down today and look at it very critically, if there was any dispute and any confusion in the Bakassi Peninsula, it was a matter of Nigeria and Southern Cameroons, and not Nigeria and Republic of Cameroon. That is what I meant to say, that if we were going to go into signing any agreement, it should have been the Southern Cameroons signing it, because Cameroon Republic does not share boundary with the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That's what I was to ask, or to say. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. But this is the Green Tree Agreement was meant to enforce a court judgment, or the enforcement of a court judgment. That court judgment, though it affected Ambazonia in Bakassi, Ambazonia or West Cameroon, Southern Cameroon was not party to the suit. That's why I've insisted on those who were in court. But then, for the records, we should understand that until 1961, the Republic of Cameroon, which got independence on 1st of January 1960, had no maritime border, no maritime boundaries with Nigeria. Absolutely zero. They had no maritime boundaries with Nigeria. They did not even have any land boundaries with Nigeria. They had their land boundary to the west of Cameroon with British administered Cameroon. They had their boundaries from Lake Chad going down to the ocean with the British administered Trust Territory of Cameroon. Not with Nigeria. Not with Nigeria. But how did Nigeria get into all this conflict with the Republic of Cameroon? In short, the involvement of Nigeria on one hand, directly with Cameroon on the other hand, stems from the 1961 plebiscite of 11 February 1961. You remember? On the 11th of February 1961, there were two plebiscites in the British administered Cameroon. Because by then, the UK, the administrators, had divided their trust territory into two, which they call one Northern Cameroon and the other one British Southern Cameroon. And they had the plebiscite and asked the Northern Cameroon and the Southern Cameroon to answer the same question with two different results. The question that they asked us, British Southern Cameroon, was, we want to get independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria or by joining the Republic of Cameroon. They asked the same question to British Northern Cameroon. Would you like to get independence by joining Nigeria or by joining Cameroon? Those were the same questions. As to what was one entity called the British administered Trust Territory of Cameroon. And so, since the British had divided it into two, it seemed like there were two territories. There were always one. But whatever is the case, going forward, the two territories answering the same question came out with different results. British Northern Cameroon voted in that very plebiscite to join Nigeria. British Southern Cameroons, under the same plebiscite, voted to join Cameroon. That is why, even as Nigeria asserts its claims to have a boundary with Cameroon, it is based on the fact that British Northern Cameroon purportedly joined them on the 1st of June 1961, and they became part of Nigeria. The same applied to us. If Cameroon is laying any claims to Bakassi, it is based on the fact that we voted on the 11th of February 1961 to join them. And the international community at large, from then, continued to see us as part of Cameroon Republic and to see Northern Cameroon as part of Nigeria. Though we dispute that, because we think there was no joining, but in the eyes of the international community, were regarded as part of Nigeria by virtue of the plebiscite. Northern Cameroon of Cameroon, Northern Cameroon is regarded as part of Nigeria by virtue of the results of the plebiscite of 1961. That is the basis. That was the
Okay.
basis on which Cameroon claimed to have a dispute in the maritime areas of Cameroon, Bakassi, with Nigeria. And again, as a footnote, you see the Bakassi issue, the case at The Hague that was filed by Cameroon in 1994. It was originally a case complaining against Nigeria in the Bakassi Peninsula. But as the case moved on, it extended to include the whole boundary from from Lake Chad to the coastal area to Bakassi, because Nigeria also claimed and Cameroon also claimed that in the northern part that had voted to join Cameroon, that Cameroon had trespassed into some villages that were of northern Cameroon that had become
Part of
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yes. So as the case progressed, when the routine was filed in March, in June, Cameroon came back and rectified their claim. Say, let us just not deal with Bakassi alone. Let us deal with the whole boundary from Lake Chad down to the Atlantic Ocean. And so the case dealt with that as a whole block. And so that is what it was, that is what it is. But then, why do you have the Green Tree Agreement? The Green Tree Agreement, before that, before I come to that, since the purported journey in 1961, Cameroon has been having boundary disputes with Nigeria over the same territory. And in an attempt to resolve the problems, they established what they call the Lake Chad Basin Commission. Because British Northern Cameroon extended to Yola, which is at the border of Lake Chad. So British Northern Cameroon was part of the Lake Chad area that comprised Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. So that set up what they call the Lake Chad Basin Commission to, 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 to try to mediate the dispute. They had met so many times in Garawa, met in Marawa, met in Yaoundé, but they didn't solve the problem. Back down to Bakassi, from 1961, that we purportedly joined Nigeria. Nigeria had no access to Bakassi. Bakassi was occupied by Nigeria. For a while, Cameroon seemed to have forgotten about that. They didn't care about that. But as they progressed on, they discovered that the Niger Delta, the Bakassi area, was really rich in oil and minerals. So they decided to fight back to try to claim that land that they had never occupied from 1961. They had never been there. So the interest of Nigeria and Cameroon over Bakassi, especially Cameroon, was not because they loved the people who live in Bakassi. No, they knew nobody there. The people who were living in Bakassi were essentially Nigerians. So Cameroon was not interested in that. They were interested in the resources that come out of Bakassi. For the record, maybe we don't know, those of us who don't know, Bakassi borders or shares the same area with Ndian. From Ndian, you can just enter into a boat in Bakassi. They share the same area. Thousands, hundreds of miles from anywhere near East Cameroon, near the Republic. No, that had nothing to do with them. So that is the foundation of the thing. So when we look at what we call the uh, Green Tree Agreement, which I have here. It's just a very short agreement, I think 3 pages, 8 articles. They're just all. From the preamble, you will know what it is all about. You know what they are talking about, which I did send it to you as a commando. If you look at the preamble, you know what the Bakassi, the Green Tree Agreement is all about.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
preamble, you will hear what it says. If you permit me to read, I'll do that fast.
Yeah.
Preamble.
Go ahead and read.
Preamble. The Republic of Cameroon, herein after referred to as Cameroon, and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, herein referred to as Nigeria, reaffirming their willingness to peacefully implement the judgment of the International Court of Justice, commenting the Secretary General of the United Nations for his efforts made in this respect in organizing a tripartite summit and establishing the Cameroon-Nigerian Mixed Commission. Under Kofi Annan, in order to implement the decision that came in 2002, they established the Nigerian Cameroon Mixed Commission,
Commission. Yeah.
where the United Nations was represented to see how to implement the decisions. Then he continues, considering the question of the withdrawal from and transfer of authority over the Bakassi Peninsula should be treated in a forward-looking spirit. The withdrawal and the handing over of Bakassi, the withdrawal of Nigerian troops from Bakassi, and the handing over of the territory to Cameroon. Because Cameroon had never occupied it. And so the issue of withdrawal here did not refer to Cameroon in this particular occasion. It was referring to Nigeria because Nigeria was the one in occupation of Bakassi.
Mm-hmm.
So the judgment had come out to say, let Nigeria withdraw. Contrary to what I've read all the time. He didn't say that Nigeria should withdraw to its boundaries of 1961 or before independence. Neither did this thing say that Cameroon should withdraw to its to its boundaries as of 1960. He didn't say that. He simply asked Nigeria to withdraw from Bakassi because that's what the judgment said. The judgment ruled that Bakassi was Cameroon in the context that we had become part of Cameroon as per the results of the plebiscite of 1961. And so we have had this story of the country asking the two countries to go to their property. No, I've not found it in this agreement. It's not there. It's not there. But curious enough, it does not mean that we were not referred to. Because of this belief, I've had to go down to read the whole judgment to see what did the judgment say about Ambazonia, if anything. And I discovered in the judgment that the judgment had written enough, actually enough, had taken into consideration Ambazonia's interest and dealt with it. So if you look at the judgment, which is more than 100 pages long and several paragraphs, you see that the judgment which we are referring to dealt with the issue of Bakassi being Ambazonia. If you permit me to read, we'll go to paragraph 230, page 231. And this is about Nigeria, about Bakassi being Cameroon, being Ambazonia in court. The court wrote, permit me, the court then examines the treatment in the period 1913 to 1960 of the southern sector of the boundary as defined by the Anglo-German Agreement of 11 March 1913, and continue. And the sorry, Cameroon contains that the mandate and trusteeship period. Take note the trusteeship period and the subsequent independence process, in our own case, the plebiscite, show recognition on the part of the international community of attachment to the peninsula. The independence process, the plebiscite that we voted, which make part will bring interest if we had joined them. That was for its parts, argues that all times while the 1884 treaty remained in force, Great Britain continued to lack power to give Bakassi away. As such, he claimed that no amount of British activity in relation to Bakassi in the mandate or trusteeship period would have severed Bakassi from Nigeria. Nigeria continued, no, our people live there. Even though there was this 1913 agreement between Great Britain and Germany, because the war had not yet started, dividing the area and giving Bakassi to the German Cameroon. Nigeria said, no, that was not correct. But this is what the court said. The court went on. This is what the court said. The court notes that after the First World War, Germany renounced its colonial possessions. Under the Versailles Treaty, the German possessions of Cameroon were divided between Great Britain and France. In 1922, Great Britain accepted the mandate of the League of Nations for that part of the former German colony of the Cameroon, which lay to the west of the line laid down in the mainland Salmon Declaration signed on the 10th of July 1919. And then this is important. Bakassi was necessarily comprised within the mandate. Bakassi was comprised within the mandate of British Cameroon. So Bakassi was part of the British administered Cameroon, which is what we refer to today as Ambazonia. That's what the court says. Bakassi was necessarily comprised within the mandate. When after the Second World War and the establishment of the United Nations, the mandate was converted to a trusteeship, the territory situation remained exactly the same from 1945. We didn't change the territory. Thus, for the entire period from 1922 until 1961, the court says, when the trusteeship was terminated, Bakassi was comprised within British Cameroons. That's Ambazonia. So the court says Bakassi was part of British Cameroon, which is today Ambazonia, not part of La Republic of Cameroon. That's in the judgment. So, on that alone, you know, right, the International Court of Justice, even though we're not there, the role of Bakassi as of 1961.
Wow.
From 1922 to 1961. He was part of British administered Cameroon. La Republic was not part of it. It does not even end there. The boundary between Bakassi and Nigeria notwithstanding, the administrative arrangements remain an international boundary. No matter whether Nigerians were living there or not, the boundary that was put that separated Bakassi from Nigeria in 1913 remained an international boundary. So the court says. So Nigeria cannot claim to come to it because there was an international boundary recognized in 1919, recognized in 1913, 1922, and 1919. That made Bakassi part of British administered. That's what the judgment goes on. Ends up And so very interestingly, I said, there were all of us. It goes on. The court is unable to accept Nigeria's contention that until its independence in 1961, and notwithstanding the Anglo-German agreement of 1913, the peninsula had rounded the seven kings of Nigeria. Now, that story is not true. And let me go to the relevant part. It says, Nigeria itself raised no quarrel as to the context, as the extent of its territory in this region upon attaining independence. The court notes, take note, the court notes in particular that there was nothing which might have led Nigeria to believe that plebiscite, which took place in the southern Cameroon in 1961 under United Nations supervision, did not include Bakassi. And then it goes on. The court further observes that this frontier line was acknowledged in turn by Nigeria when it voted in favor of General Assembly Resolution 1608. This is what we have been arguing as Ambazonia.
Yeah. Mhm.
Nigeria voted in favor of Resolution 08. Resolution 1608, which Cameroon voted against, defined Southern Cameroons as late as 1961. Again, Cameroon voted, Nigeria voted for it, recognizing Bakassi as part of Cameroon that was going to join East Cameroon. So, with this alone, I would legally say that the court dealt with Bakassi and conclusively agreed that Bakassi was British administered Cameroon, which we today call Ambazonia. There's no legal argument there. There's nothing to challenge that. That's a fact. Now we're in the
Okay.
process of reinstating our independence. The question people want to know is, having so far won this case and declaring Bakassi part of it, what is the status of that place? It's a very simple story. If we actualize our independence as we envisage, as we attempt to do, the issue of Bakassi being La Republic is mute, because there's no way somebody will live from Yaoundé, come cross Kumba, go cross Ndiang, and claim to have some territory in the territorial waters with Nigeria. They have not shared any boundary with them. Thank you. Any question? I see your hand going up.
Yes. My hand was going up because I wanted to find out. You have actually explained the whole of that portion of southern and northern Cameroons, and so whatever the argument is going on now is as a result of the northern Cameroons having accepted to join Nigeria, and then southern Cameroons after accepting to join Republic of Cameroons. Now, I want to ask this question. The people who were involved and in charge of this independence for southern Cameroons, which is Britain, that divided the southern Cameroons and the northern Cameroons, is call it in short, the Cameroons into the northern and into the southern. Now, these people, when they did that division, did they intend or did they mean that whatever northern Cameroons was to do, they were doing it on their own, and whatever southern Cameroons was to do, they were doing it on their own? And if that was not the case, how come that northern Cameroons acceptance to be with Nigeria now involves us, especially in the fight in which we are now for the southern Cameroons? And then point B, northern Cameroons joined Nigeria. Were their boundaries frozen to become part of Nigeria, or the boundaries of northern Cameroons and Nigeria still remained intact as they were when they were giving these trust territories to Britain? Over to you.
Let me take it from this cure. When Northern Cameroon, when in fact Cameroon, the German Cameroon, that shared borders with Nigeria in the maritime area off to Lake Chad. That was part of German Cameroon, as defined by the 1913 agreement signed between the UK and Germany, defining each of their own territories. And so, in 1919, after the First World War, the international boundaries of German Cameroon, as far as Nigeria is concerned, did not change. The boundary as defined in 1913 remained same, and were confirmed in 1919 when the territory was now partitioned into two to be administered as mandated territories and later on trust territories. So as far as the boundary is concerned, the boundary never altered. But your question as to what happened is not for us to discuss. Now we have talked about the division of British administered Cameroon into two by Great Britain, though they came to the United Nations General Assembly and sought permission. The 1946 agreement had allowed administrators, they were not only dealing with Cameroon, there were so many other trust territories who had adjacent colonies before. For example, Togo was a German territory too. Part of Togo was given to Great Britain. They already had a colony in Ghana. And they sought permission, let us administer this Togoland, British Togoland, along with our territory in Ghana and many other places. So in our own case, they say, okay, for administrative purposes, let us divide the UK and trust territory into two. Administer the northern part, which was from Cambe going upwards, which were essentially the Fulanis. Let us administer it from northern Nigeria. And let us administer the other part, which were essentially Christians, today Ambazonia, from Enugu. Because Nigeria was already a colony of the British. And so, you've asked a question, how did their borders become frozen? I told you that the dispute at The Hague involved the land dispute from Lake Chad, right down to the ocean. Lake Chad, Yola was the capital of northern Cameroon. And so, there was a dispute there. There were disputes there. Some Nigerians had crossed into parts of northern Cameroon and were claiming it to be theirs. Some Nigerians had crossed into Cameroon, claiming the part to be theirs. So the 1994 World Court ruled from the Lake Chad and said, look, these parts that you are trespassed, Cameroon, withdraw your troops to where your boundary is. Which boundary were they referring to in terms of Cameroon? They were referring to the boundary that separated Cameroon from northern Cameroon. In fact, they set up a boundary commission which withdrew the boundary from Lake Chad. I still have pictures of it here. The World Court ordered that the boundary should be retraced from Lake Chad to the Atlantic Ocean. And so that was done. And all the cardinal points show where each one belongs. The boundary between northern Cameroon and Nigeria became frozen after northern Cameroon opted to go to Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
For, if you remember, in 1961, Resolution 1608 stated in paragraph 4, I think paragraph 3, that northern Cameroon shall become independent on 1st of June upon joining Nigeria as, as an independent province of Nigeria, a separate province. They had agreed with Nigeria. Those who negotiated the deal that said, look, if you join us, you'll be a separate province. And they had come to Ndele and said, look, if Southern Cameroon agrees to join us, we'll make you a separate region. That was clear. But the Republic did not do that. The people was just sitting on the fence and said, well, just come, we'll talk. That's why Resolution 16085 dealt with essentially with Southern Cameroon. So you have agreed to join these people. Your Independence Day is 1st of October. You join them. But before you join them, 16085, before you join them, this was in April, you must meet as a matter of urgency and agree on what terms you are joining them.
Right.
That's why we insisted on 16085. Because Yaoundé had never agreed on what terms we were joining them. We had agreed to get independent. We were not getting independent. We had agreed to join them in independence. Without being in writing, if the conditions were good. But as I've said here before, that was 1961. That was 1960, February. Came April, the Republican in the 1608 voted no, we don't want you to join us. They voted no to the resolution.
Yeah.
Because in the February 11th plebiscite, it was our intention, manifest your intention. Do you wish to? That was the question put to us. Do you wish to get
But
independence?
Cameroon did not. Cameroon did not vote yes.
Yeah, they did. Cameroon voted no. We had wished
Okay.
that, let me just use that. We had wished to join them as imposed by the United Nations. But they themselves said no.
Yeah.
Because in 1959, when the plebiscite issue was being discussed, the questions that were put to us were being discussed in 1959, Resolution 1352. Cameroon was not part of the United Nations. They had not got independence. So they were not there. Nigeria was not part of the United Nations. They had not got independence. They got their independence October 1960. So these things were being discussed. A union was being discussed, like a marriage between two girls being discussed between parents.
Yeah.
Not knowing whether the boy or the girl will accept to marry each other. At the opportune moment, the girl said, no, Papa, no, marry me that man. No. When they go to the altar. Or the girl said, or the boy said, look, I'm not taking that girl. When they are standing before the civil status registrar, that will end the marriage. This altar now, in this case, was the 1608 resolution that they were not present. There are people who have got independence, have been admitted into the United Nations. They had a vote there. They said, no, you talk in 1959, we don't like these people. We're not joining with them.
Okay.
Nigeria said, yes, we have got independence now. This union that you have talked about, we want them to join us as a separate province.
Okay, Barrister.
I wonder if you get yes, sir.
Yes, I get you very clear. Meaning that Northern Cameroons had their independence to join Nigeria as a separate province on the 1st of June 1961, different from the
Yes.
1st of October 1961 for Southern Cameroon.
Yes.
Okay, good.
For Northern Cameroon, the trust agreement ended on 1st of June 1961 upon their joining Nigeria and becoming a separate province of Nigeria.
All right. Okay. I have a lot of questions, Barrister. And I want you to clarify our audience because there is a lot of confusion going on there with Northern Cameroon and Southern Cameroons. One of the things I put down here was to find out from you, Barrister, but the question is now answered. I just want the people out there to understand that Southern Cameroons and Northern Cameroons were divided at that time of the plebiscite when they decided to agree to join Nigeria on the 1st of June 1961 as a different province. And so their decision did not have anything to do with the Southern Cameroon's decision because they were now an entity of their own, taking their own decisions as released by the colonial masters. And we, even though we had the same colonial masters, we had our own chance of taking our decision and joining whoever we wanted to join, different from the northern Cameroons, meaning that northern Cameroons or southern Cameroons could not influence any one of them. Am I correct?
Yeah, perfectly correct. See, because the argument has always been that the British administrators, by cutting us into two, because in 1961, as I've said, February 11th, there were two plebiscites answering the same question to the same people, but now divided by the UK. The question we've always asked is, UK was entrusted one territory to administer for the United Nations. It was called British Administer Cameroon. France was entrusted one territory to administer, French administered Cameroon. But Britain did not do the same thing. They divided our own part into two and carved them into two separate colonies, into two separate trust territories, which was illegal. That's why in 1959, if you look at the resolution 1350, 1352, they said at the recommendation of the administering authority, there will be two plebiscites. There will be plebiscites in the two different regions separately. That is why this our guy who died in Bamenda there, he always came out with this argument of his independence for British administered Cameroon. It did not arise. We did not want to go. We don't want to go on earth all that, because the Northern Cameroon that voted freely like we did is not complaining because they were admitted into Nigeria as a separate province. I'm sure today they are hosted by itself. They have not been complaining. That is not to the best of our knowledge, because Nigeria voted to accept them. That was had two different independent days. 1st of June for Northern Cameroon, 1st of October for Southern Cameroon. Yes, that's why 2 days. And then the controversy is, say, it's controversial, legally very, very controversial, because the UK signed only one trust agreement on the 13th of December 1946. They signed on one trust agreement for British Northern Cameroon, for British Cameroons. But Resolution 1608 says that the trust will end with respect to Northern Cameroons on the 1st of June upon their joining Nigeria. 2, it will end with respect to Southern Cameroons on 1st of October upon their joining Cameroon. So how many trust agreements were there? Only one. How would the two trust agreements end twice?
Okay.
But that is not a debate for today.
Barrister, did the Southern Cameroons and the Northern Cameroons, did they have two different administrators?
They had only one administrator. But because British administered us differently, the Southern Cameroons was more politically educated. They were separated. That's why we were represented in Enugu. The Northern Cameroon, if there was any representation, it would have been in Kaduna in the north. So when Southern Cameroon politicians decided to quit the Enugu House of Assembly in 1953, they did not consult with Northern Cameroon. They said we're no longer part of it. I remember. What was their declaration? They call it benevolent neutrality. I've tried to explain this before. What was benevolent there? What was the neutrality? In 1954, 55, 53, Nigeria was already discussing its independence. Owolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, they were discussing NCNC and those parties in Nigeria, preparing for their independence in 1960. So the Indelis, who were in Enugu, said, we are not part of this Nigerian independence. We are benevolent, we are neutral about your independent quest. So we are silent about it. We quit because we're not part of it. That's how they withdrew from Enugu and declared benevolent neutrality. They are neutral in Nigerian politics. Go on fighting for independence the way you want. They don't include us. Northern Cameroon didn't have that. From the time that the British divided us into two, there was no connection. There was no cooperation between the northern part and the southern part. While the southern part developed very fast, educationally and politically, the northern part remained dormant. I've had the opportunity to say this before. As of 1953, 54, we had people who were very well educated. Dr. Ndele was a medical doctor. He was not a native doctor. They're going to school. We had so many primary schools. As of 1948, we already had Sase College, a secondary school. There was virtually nothing in the north. As of 1954, 55, the Munas had gone to London and trained as teachers. I'm not sure there was anybody from Northern Cameroon who had even gone to Standard 6. And so there was that separation which separated us culturally. What we had in common was just the name, nothing administratively, nothing educationally. Up there in the north, they were there in the Quranic schools. While in the south, which was British Southern Cameroon, there were Christian schools, Baptist, Catholics. Sase was a Catholic college. Ballet and all those things, Sase, Ballet, Okoyong. I'm not sure there was anybody even to that. There's any in the girls' college in northern, in that part known as Northern Cameroon. Okoyong was opened in 1956 for girls only. So we were very advanced. They had no reason at all, due to our education, to attach us to Nigeria. We were as matured as Nigeria. And so we were ripe for independence, educationally, economically, and otherwise. So the whole idea, which we have debated long before, that was not the issue. But the issue right now is we're dealing with the Bakassi, the Green Tree Agreement. And so that is how the Green Tree Agreement came about. I don't know if you have
Yeah.
other questions.
Yes, barrister. I want to find out because to me it appears that I do not know whether it was by omission or it was purposeful that these administrators had to leave us, say something like limbo, where the terms for to be fulfilled in order to have our independence or our joining concretized as stipulated in Resolution 1608, I think Article 5 or so. The terms of our joining, were the administrators ready to supervise to see that that was fulfilled before they can pronounce us now completely part of La Republic of Cameroon, or they were just interested in just leaving us in the blues, like is happening right now. And they are building on the resolution. I mean, they are building on the plebiscite that they had said we should join and join and join and join. So I don't know whether my question is clear to that point. Over to you.
It's clear. I had the opportunity before to explain that the whole idea of independence by joining, which was conceived by the UK, the UK had administered us, thinking that we were going to form part of its larger empire in Nigeria. They did not contemplate us having independence. That's why at their recommendation, they say, before the recommendation, I've said this before, in November 1959, before independence of Nigeria, the British had organized a plebiscite in northern Cameroon, asking the northern Cameroonians, would you like to join Nigeria in getting independent come October 1st? It was 1955, 1959, November. So that is plebiscite in northern Cameroon only. And the northern Cameroonians voted, no, we don't want to get independence 1st October coming to join Nigeria. No, let us decide this thing in the future. That's why a year after, just 2 years after, 1961, they came back with the same question to northern Cameroon. The idea was to see how they could coerce the British administered Cameroon to join Nigeria, the bigger empire that they already had. This was not unique with Cameroon. I've given this example before. Togoland was divided between France and the UK. There was British administered Togoland. The British administered Togoland had also to do a plebiscite to ask them where they would like to get independent by joining Ghana, the largest country of the UK, or by joining Togo, that became the Republic of Togo, Lomé. And so that is what it was. We must also understand that the way they administered the trust territories, even though they gave reports to the United Nations, were not very close. Let us take the Republic case, for example. When France decided, okay, we tell these people can have independence in 1960. 1st January. Why? In 1959, they had secured these economic agreements that they will own that place, and they wanted them to have independence immediately, and they had independence without elections. They had imposed their own leader, Mr. Ahidjo, who would sign these agreements unchallenged. So the colonial interest had not died. The colonial interest was not to help us. The exploration of Africa, the partition of Africa, was not meant to help Africans. It was an economic interest. So even when the United Nations came, the economic interest did not, the administrators did not lose sight of their economic interest in administering whatever territory it was. The reason for which the UK came to Nigeria in the first place was not to help Nigerians. They wanted to own them, exploit them. Remember the Industrial Revolution and the Agricultural Revolution in the UK, in Europe in general. They were looking for new markets. That was their goal. And so the larger the empire, the better for them. I've always said this, and I think I'm right. I don't have it written somewhere. When the British said they were not economically viable, I think it was a lie. Because the oil wealth of the Niger Delta by 1960 was really so well known. They knew that the oil deposits in the Niger Delta extended to Bakassi, which was Cameroon. So if we remain part of Nigeria, the British people would exploit all these things. So the story that we were not financially viable, we're not economically viable, to me, was just a lie. It was a concocted story to make us join them. I remember after the plebiscite, the British were so angry. Where I think a British diplomat or the Queen said, well, told France, we're giving you a gift. We've offered you a gift. A gift of what? Of Southern Cameroon. When they talk of gift, did they mean you and me sitting there as human beings? No, they were offering them a gift of the resources better under the ground of Southern Cameroon. And so I hope this answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes.
My microphone is making noise down there, reflecting back. Barrister, I think actually our time is over and we have gotten into some other person's time. We want to stop here and I want to crave your indulgence. We have not exhausted anyway, I don't know whether we have exhausted the Green Tree Agreement, but I still have a lot of questions to ask so that we can clarify our people who are adhering to some fallacies and some falsehoods and some other things because the foundation and the truth of the historical facts have not been laid down as we are beginning to talk today. I'm sure that many people have heard in a nutshell the difference between northern Cameroons and southern Cameroons and why we are not the same entity as our late brother was trying to actually put forth there, convincing people. But there are some pictures I sent to you. We'll talk about that in the next episode of our Amba history so as to conclude. Our time is really out, and I want us to jump out of the studios as quickly as you say greetings to the people of Ambazonia, and I call it quit for today. Over to you for the last greetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me once more. The take-home lesson that we have from this short 1 hour discussion is this. Let us stop spreading the unfounded story that the Green Tree Agreement said people should withdraw to their borders. No, it is not there. But the Green Tree Agreement issued from the World Court Judgment of The Hague. That World Court Judgment of The Hague adequately dealt with Bakassi as Southern Cameroon in paragraph 131. They said, as per the history, Bakassi was part of UK-administered Cameroon. They said, Nigeria, you cannot lay claim to Bakassi because he voted 1608, which 1608 was only binding on Ambazonia to join Cameroon with its territory, which included Bakassi. The territory of British Southern Cameroon included Bakassi. So Bakassi, it is not mentioned in the Green Tree Agreement because that was not the goal. But the judgment deals adequately with Bakassi and concludes, without mincing words, that Bakassi is Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, not Cameroon. Bakassi is British within the British administered trust territory of Cameroon. Full stop. So that's just the homework we should take. Those who don't have the Green Tree Agreement, it is there. We can put it out there for anybody to read. And if you have time, I would not care forwarding the whole judgment for anybody who is interested to read the whole judgment of the ICJ. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come on board. Please, I would like to invite you who has something more to add to come on board with us in the shortest time possible. God bless you.
Sovereign silhouette, the emblem of Ambazonia. From the azure embrace of the Atlantic reflecting from the Amber's Bay, the iconic Fako mountain ascends with a silent, stoic grace, carving a silhouette against the sky. This towering sentinel is more than a geographical marvel. It is the heart of Southern Cameroons, the stoic guardian of Ambazonia, a symbol steadfast as the unyielding spirit manifests in the unity of the land's 13 counties.